Hey, Yuri here, and today I've got something kind of weird to share with you, maybe a little bit shocking and controversial, and that is I'm going to tell you that eating pancakes for dinner could actually help you lose weight. So before you start throwing stones at me and putting like scarlet letter A on my chest, hear me out for a second, because obviously if you're still looking to lose weight, then what you're doing is probably not working, and it's no fault of your own because there's a lot of misinformation out there. And I'm hoping that this video is going to clear some of that misunderstanding up. So let's look at why, for instance, in the first place, eating pancakes for breakfast is not a good idea. So when we eat a heavy carbohydrate meal, or actually even just cereal or a bagel or pancakes for breakfast, what ends up happening is that we spike our blood sugar, right? Because those carbohydrates get broken down into blood sugar, and then it spikes our blood sugar. Now, why is that a problem? Well, in addition to insulin, which is that fat-storing hormone being released and storing more of that as fat, potentially, the thing that it does as well is that it actually blunts our cortisol response. So let me just kind of share with you something. So normally, when we wake up in the morning, we have a high cortisol level, and then it just dips throughout the day, right? So we'll call this cortisol because that's what it is. So this is AM, this is PM. Cortisol kind of signals to our body, hey, the day is starting, let's go and make it happen. Cortisol's other job is to raise blood sugar because it's a stress hormone, right? So when in periods of fight or flight, it will go to the muscles, break down the glycogen, and that broken down glycogen increases our blood sugar. So that's what cortisol is supposed to do normally. But here's the thing, if we're already eating a carbohydrate-rich breakfast, then our blood sugar is already high, which tells cortisol, hey, instead of being up here, you can just be down here because we don't need as much of you. And that starts a very nasty cascade of events where you start to really mess up your circadian rhythm. Here's the other thing, the flip side to this is melatonin. So this is melatonin, and you may have heard of melatonin as kind of the sleep-inducing hormone or neurotransmitter. Same, or actually sort of the opposite of cortisol. So it's low in the morning, high at night. So when it gets dark, cortisol should go down, melatonin goes up, tells our brain, hey, it's sleepy time. Cool? Now, here's the dilemma with this, is that when you start messing up with your circadian rhythms, then all of this kind of gets out of whack, and you're not able to sleep properly, and that starts a nasty cascade of events. So let's take this back to the pancakes. What if you had pancakes for dinner and had steak for breakfast? It doesn't matter if you're vegan or not, I'm just going to use steak as an example because we all think of steak as protein. So you have protein in the morning. You don't spike your blood sugar because protein is not going to spike your blood sugar as much, obviously, as carbohydrates do. So you don't get this blunting cortisol response. You have the normal cortisol curve, ideally, and then your circadian rhythm stays as it should. The other thing that eating more protein in the morning does is actually stabilizes your blood sugar, keeps you full longer, and it just doesn't make you feel like you're starving within half an hour afterwards. So that's something to think about. Okay, so if you're having a breakfast, which you don't have to, but if you are, look at about 20 grams of protein with your meal. So back to pancakes for dinner. If we're having pancakes for dinner, and let's be smart about this. Let's have healthy gluten-free pancakes. I've got an amazing recipe for it. Don't worry. Gluten-free pancakes, good amount of fiber, good amount of protein in there. So it's not just like pure syrup and sugar and stuff like that. So you're not massively spiking your blood sugar at night. But here's the thing, if you're having carbohydrates later in the day, what that ends up doing is, remember, it's blunting the cortisol response, right? Because it's going to increase your blood sugar slightly. And that's also going to favor melatonin, just, melatonin's natural, curve anyways. But here's the other thing about melatonin. Here's the other thing about carbohydrates that really nobody thinks about. Everyone talks about, you've heard of tryptophan, right? Like Thanksgiving dinner, you feel tired after turkey dinner because the tryptophan in the turkey made you tired. That's actually completely false because there's more tryptophan in chicken than there is in turkey. So what's going on there? Well, it's probably the result of eating a copious amount of food that your digestive system is having to work on and sucking all of your energy, and that's why you feel like falling asleep at the table. But the reality is that tryptophan is a precursor to melatonin. I'll draw this out in a second, but tryptophan is actually much more influenced by carbohydrate consumption than turkey. Here's why. When you eat carbohydrates, the increase in blood sugar that leads to the increase in insulin actually shuttles a lot of that sugar into your muscles. And with that goes a lot of the amino acids, the building blocks for protein in your muscles, right? So a lot of those amino acids end up in your muscles, which ends up leaving a lot of free tryptophan circulating around in the blood. The cool thing is that that free tryptophan is now able to pass the blood-brain barrier, and let's see if this fits on the camera here. So we'll call this TRIP. It gets converted into serotonin, which is kind of like a relaxing neurotransmitter. And that serotonin is converted into melatonin, and thus we're able to sleep much more effectively. So again, you may have never heard this before, having pancakes for dinner could actually help you sleep better. And what the heck does all this have to do with fat loss? Well, sleep is very important for your ability to lose weight. And I've talked about this in one of my previous videos, and I want to highlight a study that was done in Quebec. It was basically called the Quebec Sleep Study. And it was done in a community of several hundred people, and they looked at how long people slept on average. And what they found is that the people who slept an average of 7 to 9 hours were kind of like their baseline, and the low sleepers were 5 to 6 hours per night. Over 6 years, they found that those sleeping only 5 to 6 hours per night gained an average of 4.3 more pounds than the normal sleepers. Now you might be saying, okay, Yuri, 4.3 more pounds over 6 years, it's really nothing, whatever. But that's in addition to other things, right? Let's just say you gained 4 extra pounds over 6 years just based on your sleep patterns, right? That's not even considering what you might be doing exercise-wise or dietary-wise, which could exacerbate and even increase that. So what if you could sleep better by simply having breakfast for dinner? And it's not about having pancakes or cereal, but I'm just using this to get you thinking about reversing the nonsense that we've been marketed to for so many decades from these food companies, saying, hey, General Mills, here's this cereal, you have to have cereal for breakfast. Remember, it's all nonsense, it's all BS. These food companies have been marketing their products to you and creating meal times that sell more of their products. What do we typically have for breakfast? Cereal, muffin, toast, bagel, whatever else, baked goods. And then let's throw in some eggs for a little bit of protein. Eggs are pretty much the only protein food that are part of the breakfast regime. Other than that, it's for the most part very carbohydrate based. So what if we were to shift things around? I'm not saying you should have cereal and stuff like that, but instead of being afraid of carbohydrates, because you shouldn't be, what if we had more of the carbohydrates later in the day to actually help us induce this process, help us maintain our circadian rhythms, which also helps us lose fat more effectively, instead of being afraid of them. You've probably been told that eating carbs later in the day is going to pack on the weight. Well, the fact is it's not true. It really doesn't matter if you have 5 meals throughout the day or 2 meals throughout the day, as long as total calories are the same. And simply by shifting the number or the amount of carbohydrates you have from the earlier part of the day to the latter part of the day, you'll sleep better, you'll have an easier time losing weight, because it's not about calories, it's about resetting your physiology to its normal factory settings. And you cannot do that if you're having pancakes for breakfast or anything else, because it's messing up your circadian rhythm, your hormones, and all this other stuff. So what I'm suggesting to you is break away from the thinking that you have to do what everyone else is doing, because if you still are looking to lose weight, then obviously something you're doing is not working. And it's about changing your approach to find something that actually does work. And if you want to lose weight and need my guidance, then I'd strongly encourage you to pick up my latest book. It's coming out in December of this year, 2015, called The All-Day Fat Burning Diet. When you pre-order your copy now, or at any point leading up to then, I'm also going to be hooking you up with $116 worth of bonuses, absolutely free, to help you burn fat even faster. Now, the book itself is going to help you reset your metabolism to lose up to 5 pounds per week using my proprietary 5-day food cycling formula, which actually allows your body to operate in its kind of natural rhythm. And what that means is that some days some days you just don't feel like eating a lot of food, right? Some days you feel like having a lot more food, and that's totally fine. And with this plan, you're able to do that. And it just so happens that it actually helps speed weight loss and keeps the weight loss sustainable. So if that's of interest to you, if you want to finally lose weight and keep it off without counting calories, without depriving yourself of great food, and without killing yourself in the gym, then this book is for you. Whether you're looking to lose your first 50 pounds or your last 10, this is the potential solution for you. Again, the program works. We've led hundreds and hundreds of people through it. All that's required is that you do the work as well and follow along, and the results will show. So if you're interested, the link is below. You can learn more about it, along with the amazing bonuses, along with a bunch of other transformations that you can be inspired by. And it's an amazing book. It's pretty much everything I know about fat loss in a very simple to follow plan. It will greatly serve you. And I hope you've enjoyed this. Hopefully it's made sense. And if you want that pancake recipe, actually, it's in the book. So I can't really write it out here, but it's in the book. It's awesome. And I hope you'll enjoy it as well. And I'll see you in the next video.